Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Board Game Barbecue, episode 335, brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and, of course, our amazing Patreons. You've got Conor here in the chair, and brought to you by the only two members of this podcast that are more degenerate than me. Actually, that's borderline for one of us, but the person I'm going to introduce next is definitely more degenerate than me, and that is Adrian. What's going on, Adi?
I am actually crying already because just before Conor mentioned something and it went wrong and we had to start again, and I'll put it in at the end of the secret segment. But I was trying not to laugh, and then my eyes have just filled up with water, and I was trying to be silent and not make like sniggery noises in the background. But I'm great. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good for a Sunday arvo, and happy, stoked to be back on. It's actually been a while since I've been on an episode, so I'm really keen. And bringing us up from Melbourne, Victoria, we've got Joe. What's going on, Joe?
Hello, Conor. Hello, Adrian. I think it's pretty funny that you say that maybe I'm borderline when actually I'm probably the most degenerate out of the whole everyone on the podcast. It's very funny.
I like to keep people on their toes. Who could it be? It's like, no, but at the same time, they've probably already seen the clip and seen that we're all on it. So it's like, anyway. But unless of course you're listening to it on one of our audio platforms. But yes, we have. It's going to be a great episode. I always love catching up with these two, and we've been pretty busy, right? Like, Joe, you had a massive weekend last weekend.
Yeah, so friend of the pod, ex-pod member Mike had the board game group that we're all part of. We went on a board gaming weekend away. Went down to Ocean Grove for the weekend and just played board games the whole time. So lots to talk about this episode, which is fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know you put up pictures of it, and I was like, and you were playing so many cool games, which I'm sure you're going to talk about. A couple of I've also played and then keen to play as well. 80, you have been playing doing one of our other hobbies in video games, and a game that we've both started playing, but you're a bit further ahead than me, and that is Expedition 33. So what's the go with that?
Well, I don't play many video games. I know that sounds crazy, but I've played Overwatch and Dota pretty much since forever, probably about 10 years. And then prior to that was just World of Warcraft. So I'm not one of those people that just buys all the video games and plays a lot of video games. But this one just caught my eye because it's turn-based. In the action part of it, it's all turn-based, kind of like a board game in itself, in a way, in the old sort of Final Fantasy VII kind of days. And I have to say that for me, the story is absolutely top tier. I have loved the story. I won't give any spoilers away because you get launched right into it at the start. But I've been absolutely gripped by this game. But actually, I'm not further ahead than you because my amazing son Finn, who we both started this game together and sitting down and going like mind blown at all these cool story moments, has just decided to just play it off and just leave me behind. So I actually had to start a new game and play myself. It's a fantastic game. And it's like, I didn't even realize that the voice actors were like Charlie Cox. And also the guy who plays Gollum. What's his name again? Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis and stuff. And there's a bunch of other actors in there that are really, and you can tell, like when they start to talk, it's really well acted. So anyway, it's on Game Pass. I know we're not a video game podcast, but this game has really just made me fall in love with a story-based game. And I never play those because of my tendencies to be a bit flighty when it comes to those kind of games. I just get bored and then I delete it and move on. But yeah, I've been gripped. So
it's really cool. So you said turn-based. So obviously that means that you get to make a decision. But when you're doing some of your actions, some of your skills, you actually have to time your button presses, and the button presses then power up your attacks. When an enemy is attacking you, you have an opportunity to parry and to jump and to dodge. So you then have to take less damage. So it's actually really engaging. Yeah. So it's clair obscure, but I think that would be in a French accent. Expedition 33. So I'm not sure if they're looking at maybe franchising or something like that, because it's a bit weird. It's their first game. But yeah, so like you said, we're not a video game podcast.
I've got a funny anecdote just quickly. So I'm a huge JRPG nerd, Final Fantasy nerd, big time. And I've had so many people, including you guys, tell me, Joe, you have to play this game because you're such a JRPG nerd. And I finally downloaded it and I'm going to play it because a random on Tinder said to me, you're going to love this game. You got to play it. I was like, God, if even in the randoms on Tinder are telling me about it, I probably should download this game.
That's so good. Well, hey, look, in that situation like that, I'd be listening to the Tinder match too. So yeah, so that's just a little video game side track. We're not going to be spending all day on video games, although I did joke this one should be the Overwatch podcast, but I don't know how many of you people would enjoy that. Maybe we'll save it for Patreon episode. Joe, one of the games you played on the weekend, I got to play at PlayCon last year, and it's a new take on an old classic in Hearts, Rebel Princess.
Yeah, I remember playing Hearts on the computer back in the day when it was one of the card games on the computer, but it didn't stick with me. But yeah, I got to play Rebel Princess over the weekend, and actually a few times before that. It's a trick-taking game, if those of you don't know it. The conceit of it is it's one of those games where you don't want to win tricks, essentially, particularly tricks that contain the princes, which are a suit of card. I think someone else has talked about it on the podcast before as well, potentially. I famously have said I don't like trick-taking games, and this is actually probably the purest trick-taking game in that the twist isn't that twisty, and it still is very much a trick-taking game at heart, but I still really enjoyed it. And I think it's the changing, what do you call it, goals or the changing rules each round, keep it really fresh and keep it really interesting. And the individual powers that you get and the princesses, I think, are also really, really interesting as well.
Yeah. So like, and when we were playing it the first time, we didn't realize there was going to be different rules each time. So we're playing with, oh, this is fun, the princess powers, whatever. And then the different rules came, and I was like, okay, this is the rub. This is the, like you said, the twist on Hearts.
Yeah.
There's also so what you win, when you win cards, you can win. They're effectively like animals, I think. And
one of the suits.
The wild suit is animals. The rest of them are princesses. And the whole idea is that you want to hold a party and the princes aren't invited.
Correct.
So it's like, no, we don't want these stinky princes. But one of them in the wild suit is a frog. And the frog is actually a hidden prince that has obviously had a curse being put on them by a witch. And that's worth 3 or 4, 5. It's worth 5 of the princes. So you definitely don't want to win that. When someone leads wilds and you've got it, you're like, here we go, I'm going to unload this. It is really fun. I've played it a couple of times and I really look forward to it. Adi, have you played Rebel Princess?
No, I missed the opportunity to play it at PAX, I believe, last year when a group were playing it. But it looked really good, and a lot of people play it like it's kind of consistently getting drawn out to the table and people play it. I think it's simple enough that it's kind of entry level and people can kind of enjoy the changing rules as it goes. So
it's pretty mean. It's a pretty mean game. It's probably also another reason why I enjoyed it is that you're really screwing people over. It's very fun.
Definitely can hear the Joe cackle like from.
That's the one.
Damn it! Yeah, getting really gross. Adi, tell us a little bit about a farming game that you've been playing. A very cute farming game known as Harvest.
Yeah, someone got me this for my birthday. And it was unexpected, and I hadn't really heard much of it other than I believe it's done by the same publisher that did Parks. So, like, everything is top-notch quality, beautiful. Like, even on the inside of the box lid, it's all printed and it looks great. But, yeah, it's essentially a farming game, worker placement with a wheelbarrow. You have, like, 3 little wheelbarrows, and you take actions each round and then draw them back at the end of the round and then sort of go again. And there's some rules that change in between each round. But I found it was really good. It was really simple. The tightness of the actions made the game good because it was hard to get those spots because most people, like in a worker placement game, and a lot of them, someone takes the spot, you can't go there. And I remember at one point sort of trying to decide which action I wanted to take, and I was discussing it with MJ and Finn, and they were very quiet because MJ wanted one of the actions and Finn wanted the other. So they didn't tell me this at the time, but when I placed the wheelbarrow on the spot, Finn was like, yes, that's the one I didn't want you to take, sort of thing. So he managed to get his action afterwards. But it's just, it's super cute, super interesting. It's sort of, you have to sort of sow seeds. You have to buy seeds first, then sow them, then essentially water the plants to expand the crops, and then harvest them as like the sort of last action to get the points from it. And there's a bunch of other little sort of mini mechanics and bits in there that get you more points. We really liked it. Finn won the first game and Joe won the second, and we played it back to back. And Finn was asking to play it again later in the week. So it's super cute, super nice. And if you want a sort of entry-level worker placement game, I would say this is a great one because there's not a lot of iconography. There's probably maybe 12 symbols or something total, so it's quite easy to get your head around. And there's some replayability because the crops and the way that the action boards are placed out on the board change. And there's also blocking from, if you're going to play it 2-player, that parts of the map get blocked out and stuff to keep it that tightness. Yeah, it was really good. Really liked it. Have you guys played it?
No, it's been on my list to play. I quite like the artwork that it has, and the fact that it's a very tight worker placement game is also intriguing for me because I like
short.
having that. Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Maybe I think an hour for the first game, and then maybe 50 minutes for the second. It was really, really short and really good. Perfect length for someone of that age. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the next thing I was going to ask, right? So the artwork is very cutesy and very intriguing, but it gives off that vibe of, it could be for younger people or less experienced people. I know Finn's probably a bit higher up in terms of the games he plays and his age bracket, but would you say it's good for someone around Finn's age, maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger?
Yeah, I think you can get the basic concepts quite easily if you're sort of going slow, and you could always play it as just one round rather than 4 rounds, just so that, younger audience can understand the mechanisms and how it works, so you don't overwhelm them with a 50-minute game. But yeah, I found it really tight, and that's what made me enjoy it. Like I said, I thought I don't want to have all the resources and all the everything and just getting billions of points. I was struggling. I mean, I didn't win a game, so it was tight. And I could see that MJ was planting pumpkins, which are sort of a different polyomino shape. They're kind of harder to fit on your board, and you've got to sort of clear the fields to have more space to plant more crops. And I just did blueberries, and that was quite successful, but they took a lot of water because blueberries take a lot of water, right? That's just the facts. And it was good. It was really fun. And the farmers are all super cute as well, and they've got all different abilities, and you can sort of pair them up with different actions really well. So yeah, it was good. Liked it.
Yeah, cool. So that was Harvest. I played a game that I wanted to talk about the last time I was on the podcast, which was just after your birthday, 80, with Tom, Jess, and James from our community. And that's River of Gold. So this is a worker placement game. It's set in the Legend of the Five Rings universe, which is I think it started off as an RPG, but it then became a card game and things like that. Look, it's funny because it also draws similarities from Lords of Waterdeep, where if you've played Lords of Waterdeep, it's a really great game, but it has nothing to do with the actual D&D universe, aside from dropping a few names or whatever. River of Gold is very much the same thing, where it, aside from you going down a river and then having a few of the clan names and things like that, it really doesn't have that much to do with it. But what it does have is similar Lords of Waterdeep, is a really great feeling of trying to go for spots to build your buildings. And in a way, it's more competitive than Lords of Waterdeep, because in Lords of Waterdeep, any of those buildings are available at any time for you to build as long as there's a spot available. In River of Gold, you need to be in a particular location down the river to be able to build there. So what you have is you have a couple of boats, and the location of your boat will dictate where you can build and trade effectively. And also the number on your dice is the number of spots you can move up the river. And as you move up the river, when you get to the end, you get a certain number of bonuses. But also that dictates where you can take particular actions as well. Might be where you can then cash in some of your materials that you have. Could be where you can interact with particular buildings and things like that. So if you're looking for a game that's similar to Lords of Waterdeep with that same feeling, where there is a bit of openness, there is a bit of decision making for you to have, but it's tighter in the fact that, if I'm going to build there, I have to be in that location. So your boat is effectively where you can visit, and then also the dice is where you can interact. There's also a bit of combo building where once you have effectively made a deal with one of the clans, you have their powers at the end. And then based on the number of clans and the types of clans that you've made deals with and buildings that you've built, you'll get victory points at the end. So it's a pretty stock standard type of game. But what it does have is an incredible production. It is just so pretty. I loved going down the river. It's like lined with gold because it's the river of gold. And it's a cool sort of process where when you visit a particular location before there's a building built that you can interact with, you just get money. And so there's a nice engine building thing where while it might be not necessarily boring at the start, but we play with 4 players. So that's the max player count. And there's no buildings available really for you to interact with. You just get lots of money. But then by a second or third turn, there was so many buildings that you could have interacted with to make trades with. It's just a lot of fun. I quite enjoyed my play of it. I'd love to play it again. I'd been keen to play it since it came out. It's also on BGA as well. So if you're keen to have a go of it, it's definitely on BGA. And I think it would translate pretty well. I haven't played it yet, but I think it would translate pretty well to BGA. So yeah, that's another worker placement game in River of Gold.
Is it not super complex as well? Like it's sort of Waterdeep sort of level?
Yep, 100%. It's the same type of complexity as Waterdeep in that, you know, if you can explain worker placement, I'm going to go here, you're going to go there. The thing is, there's not the competition for spots for you to visit the same way it is for Lords of Waterdeep. The competition is building particular buildings on a location. So it kind of flips it, where with Lords of Waterdeep, the competition is for you to place your agent. Your boats can inhabit the same location on the river. It's just that if you want to build a particular building, you're going to have to be in a particular location for you to build that. And then as you build in a location, you will go up tracks, which is your reputation track, which means that at the end you'll get more bonuses, so on and so forth. Like I said, I did play it with James, who is affectionately known as Draven in our Discord community. So if you have any questions about the game, ask him. Don't ask me, because he is much better explaining stuff than I am.
It does have a really nice production value. I'm just having a look, and it's nice to see. So it's based on the Legend of the Five Rings property, which is not D&D. It's like a TTRPG kind of universe.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and so it's nice to see kind of new games with new IPs that, or you know, existing IPs that aren't D&D, which is really good. So.
Yeah, it actually makes me want to investigate that a little bit more too. So, you know, different universe, and as much as I love the D&D universe, it can, when you're visiting it all the time and consuming lots of media, it can get a bit tiring. Joe, I'm going to go to you for this next one because it is interesting because one of our members absolutely adores this game. I would love to hear your opinion on Andromeda's Edge.
Yeah, so I'm going to be slightly negative. I'm not going to talk about it for too long because, you know, we don't like to be too negative on the podcast. So I played this at the weekend away recently as well. I wasn't a huge fan of Dwellings of Eldervale when I played that. So, but my friends who were there were like, oh, it's better. You'll really enjoy it. And on paper, I can see why they would think I would enjoy it. Personally, with Andromeda's Edge, I felt like it didn't really fix a lot of the problems with Dwellings of Eldervale. Have either of you guys played it?
I have not played Andromeda's Edge, but I've played Dwellings.
Okay, I see. I think one of the things that's touted about is that it kind of fixes the dice rolling side of things. It allows you to mitigate the dice rolling in combat. You know, the thing with Dwellings was that you could have 20 dice that you're rolling, but it's whoever rolls the highest dice. So if someone rolls 20 dice, they don't roll any sixes, and the opponent rolls 1 dice and they roll a 6, they win the combat, which just doesn't feel very nice when you spend all that time and energy to boost your strength, and then you're getting beaten by someone who hasn't invested anything. So I personally don't find that all that fun. And so I think they tried to do that by changing, adding some dice mitigation in the game, in the combat. But I just felt like one of the issues with Dwellings is that there's so many different random components. There's random cards you're getting. The way the board's set up is random. For a game that's that long, I just don't. It's one too many. It's one too many pieces of randomness you have to deal with. So I wasn't a huge fan. You know, lovely production value, obviously, but wasn't a huge fan of it.
See, I have similar kind of feelings about the game myself. For me, a game I feel that's that long and the investing that much time into, I feel it's very devastating to lose to someone in those kind of dice rolls. However, those dice rolls make those moments in a weird way. Like they do make the ups and downs of stuff, and that I kind of like. But for me, I didn't enjoy the entire experience. I wouldn't say no to playing it again, if I'm honest. I would pick that over Dwellings as well. I think it was a much more interesting game for me. But it's just not my thing. The games are so different these days that there's something that appeals to everybody. It's like me trying to convince people to play all these crazy, weird, random maps on Age of Steam. Most people are like, nah, it's all good.
I'll just curse the normal map that I've played on a couple of times. I think my opinion on this is the randomness of the dice rolls in Dwellings is okay when you're playing a shorter game.
Agree.
And what they try to do with Dwellings, and I assume that they've tried to do with Andromeda's Edge, is they've tried to have Euro aspects be put into these sort of thematic games where a lot of the time with Euros, you're playing the long game. So inherently, you're playing a game where you're making moves early to pay off in the end. But all of a sudden, then you're having this randomness come in. So the randomness is fine when you're playing a game that is not long at all and you haven't invested a whole lot of your time. But if then all of a sudden these random dice rolls have gone against you, it can be a little bit disheartening and it can turn a lot of people off. So that's kind of where I was at with Dwellings. It's like, yeah, I kind of get what they're saying. And I think it was an honourable ambition in having the combination of the two, but it just didn't quite work. Now, again, I'm not yucking anyone's yum here, but it just didn't work for me. And I'm probably a bit like Adrian. Like if I wanted to sit down and play a game with people and someone's like, hey, you want to play Andromeda's Edge? I probably wouldn't say no, but there'd definitely be other games that I'd want to try first. In saying that I haven't played it. So, yeah.
But it must have a massive appeal to people because it is hugely popular. Dwellings, I remember when Dwellings came out, it was insane. Like, I remember it was at our first game day, actually, and you couldn't get a copy. They were all sold out. Pre-orders were going nuts. So it's a very, very popular game, and people love that game. It's just, different strokes for different folks, right? Everyone's different.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not talking about, obviously all of us have a similar opinion. We're not talking about it to put anyone's opinion down. It's more just for us and what we're investing in the hobby, it's just not our kind of cup of tea, and that's okay.
And if it is for you, all the more power to you. Cool. So that was Andromeda's Edge. Adi, tell me a little bit. You're a green thumb. You're an absolute green thumb. So tell us about Tang Garden, where you get to use you're just doing farming, bro.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, this is a little bit different. You're trying to make a beautiful garden for the sort of, the sort of aristocracy or the upper class people to look at and sort of peruse around.
I thought you were going to say you're trying to make a beautiful garden for BQ and Vinny.
No, not this time. I have to say for the start, it's Haig's game, and he has the ridiculously massive box, and it is huge. And it kind of, when it comes apart and the lid comes off and stuff, it oozes quality. Like all the sort of the way everything's folded inside, and even the sort of box lid, how it sits and stuff. It looks beautiful. And the game on the table looks fantastic. We played 2 games back to back, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it would have been my sizzle this week if not for the game that I'm going to talk about in a moment. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thought it was a fantastic game. Not only the production value, but just the sort of thinky aspect and the way that you can maneuver the pieces and the people on the board and kind of block people out of getting certain points, and you getting more points and more beneficial points by taking certain characters. I want to call them characters because they're sort of essentially, you can control these different characters in the game and place them out on the map, and they're all different. I don't know all the different types, but there's an architect, sort of an engineer, a student, and they all score differently, all of them.
Is one of them WWE champion? Because I'm looking at a picture of. Did they come painted, or has this person painted them?
Someone has painted those.
Okay, right.
Hags were not painted.
Yeah, because this guy definitely looks like he's holding a WWE championship.
Well, it's gold, right? They're the rich, so it makes sense. But yeah, it's just a phenomenal production and a great game, and it's super easy. Like, it's another one that's super easy but super thinky and super tight, and all the scores were quite tight. And I believe I managed to win one of the games. I'll have to double check because I don't want to say I won when I probably didn't. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And there's so many modules and so many more different characters to add to the game and different ornaments, because everything scores differently. So you're adding different things to the game. Anything from fish and lily pads, they combine together to get different points, to little pergolas that score differently, and they become a viewing platform for other players to view these beautiful gardens from. And even the scenery and then the sort of sunsets and stuff at the very back of the board, they all kind of clip into the board and stand upright, and they all score differently, have different scoring conditions. And then depending on which way you place your particular character and which way they face, they score differently because they have to face out towards the sunset. And it's just great. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know if you guys have played it. It's very chill. It's certainly not that mean. There's a couple of little bits in there where you can sort of block people or do some moves to, screw people out of a couple of points to try and get that edge, to get that win. But it's certainly not a mean game by any means. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Great game.
It looks so good. Like the whole 3D aspect as well is amazing. Like with the trees and the viewing platform, gazebos, and even like you said, the scenery in the background where you clip it in and it forms the background. That's really cool. So, Adrian, I wanted to ask you about this and Harvest. So at the moment with my family, my nieces are getting a little bit older. So we're moving away from the really early childhood games that we play together, and they're wanting to play something a little bit more complex. Harvest sounds like a game that one, if not both of them, could play, being early high school and later primary. Would you say the same for Tang Garden?
I mean, this is another thing, right? Your nieces have got a decent sort of board gaming vocabulary, if you like. They've played enough games to understand, symbology and different things and different scoring conditions and, pluses and minuses to certain things. And yeah, I think that they are both great games for those age groups, whereas I think Tang Garden probably has a little bit more to it in the way that you really got to watch where you're putting these different people and which way they're facing to sort of maximize your scoring, as opposed to Harvest is a bit more relaxed and a bit more kind of you're focusing on your own puzzle because you've got your own player board, which has your own field that you're in there sort of tulling away at. But yeah, I think that they would both be able to understand these games. To pick one over the other would be impossible. Like I would say that they're both very different, but they both offer a lot in different ways. It just depends on, I suppose, what theme they would like. This one does look amazing on the table, though, when you have all these printed pieces that are all 3D, and it does look like extra special. I think they're both equally awesome. But Tang Garden was great. I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable game. I'd love to try different modules and different bits to it because I think it could offer quite a sort of complex, deep game with those kind of scoring conditions where you're trying to not give other players points and you're trying to just give yourself points.
It's one of those games I think is I also haven't played it, but it's reliably played at our game days. I think there's at least one person playing Tang Garden, so it's like it's clearly has staying power in that people are playing it. And I've always been curious to give it a go.
I think because the rule set is quite simple, so it's easy to just get it moving. And you can kind of explain a few things as you go. You're playing tiles out on the board. They score differently. Then you're putting these buildings out. They score differently. And then the trees score differently. But you want to put the trees in certain spots, blah, 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 blah. And it's not too hard to learn. But it's thoroughly enjoyable. And the power-ups and the asymmetry that kind of comes into it can be really good. And everyone has their own sort of asymmetrical power until they place that person in the garden. They go in the garden, and then you sort of lose part of that power, gain other abilities. It's good. Solid.
Yeah, it's definitely a looker on the table for sure. Let's keep rolling with the theme of beautiful gardens, and I'm going to quickly talk about a game that is in Joe's top 10 games of all time. So clearly one of Joe's favourite games. I think this is potentially the winner of the most amount of game in the smallest package or box, and that is White Castle. It is so good. So I played this with Sarah on BGA a little while ago, and I played it on BGA as well. So I played it at 2 and 3 players. Oh man, this game, it's so funny because you play this game and from the get-go, when you open the box, like there can't be that much in this game, and there's heaps. And then you find out you effectively only have 3 rounds and 2 or 3 actions within that round, and you think there's not much I can do. But if you like combos, this is just such a combo-heavy efficiency, getting like squeezing. It's like squeezing the last toothpaste out of a tube. What can you get out of your actions? How am I going to make this as efficient as possible? Because the timing of when you take things and the timing of when you get your resources, take another action, because so many of these actions that you take are not free. You have to pay for them. So it's not a matter of, oh, I'm just going to take this action and take this action and take this action. You know, and you need to have the resources to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's a wasted turn or a partially wasted turn. Are you going to then build on the left-hand side of the board so you can take those actions at the end of the round, or are you going to have more efficiency and more power middle of the round? Are you going to go for end game? It is so good. So it's dice placement, which is one of my favorite types of games, with the mitigation of the dice where you can pay gold to reach the value of a dice, because you can't place a die on top of another dice unless it is equal or exceeds the power. So you can make that up with gold. It's so good. I can't believe how much game is in this box. Joe is sitting there nodding away. It'd be very rude for me not to let him chime in.
It's just. I think it's one of the best designed games in the last few years. In that, it's so lean and so. This is, it's elegant. Just a bit wanky, but it's elegant in its design. Like you said, it's true. You literally get 9 turns in the game. The whole game is 9 turns, and that you feel that pressure to make the most out of each of the turns, each of the rounds, or each of your turns. And that's, I think, what is really fun about the game is you look at what's in front of you and go, okay, what can I get the most? How can I get the most value out of what's in front of me? It's just so good. That's a game I would happily play anytime.
Yeah. And speaking of that, it is incredibly quick. It's so quick because it's those 9 turns. You're forced to play. You're not forced to play quickly, but there's just it's weird for me to explain this, and as per usual, I probably won't do a great job. Just because there's not much game time doesn't mean there's not a lot of game in it. There is so much game in it, so much decision making, and then what will happen is you'll take an action, and then your opponent will take a better action. You're like, fudge! Like, you're just like, oh my God, like, why didn't I not see that? And I love those types of games because it means that, especially for someone like me, there's so much improvement that I can get out of that game. And I know that I could go back and maybe just increase my score by a couple of points or whatever. So yeah, this is definitely another game that's on BGA. I would highly recommend you giving this a go. It works really well. And as per usual on BGA, they've done a much better job in helping you to learn the game on there. So it's like, no, you can't take this action yet because you don't have this or you don't have that. Like, they will explain. It's not just, no, you can't do it, which it used to be back in the days, like, no, can't do. They will give you some sort of text. Hey, have you played White Castle?
I have not played White Castle. I've played a bunch of the other ones in that kind of series. And to be honest, other than Salt and Sea, I wasn't that fussed about any of them. Like, they were fine. They were just fine. Like, for me, I just wasn't that fussed. But I hear a lot of people say this game is great. I know it's got an expansion to it, right? Same as is it the Red Cathedral? Red Cathedral had an expansion as well, I believe. But yeah, I think I would definitely try it. Like, I'm not opposed to trying it. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. So
I think you'd really like it.
Yeah, me too.
It's
nice.
right up your alley.
Yeah,
100%.
It without having the length, it reminds me the tightness of Barrage. And having to make those decisions, it's probably not as brutal, a little bit more flexibility, but it does remind me of that. It's like, like, I wish I had planned a little bit better a turn before, because then I could have taken that little bit, or taken that little bit. So yeah, I'm really keen to play it again. I have a physical copy, and I just haven't gotten a chance to bust it out yet, but I play it on BGA. So yeah, that's White Castle from Devere, who, man, I will give anything that they make a shot. 100%, hands down.
100%.
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself or living in a simulation. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about Deja Vu.
That was a good segue.
Another one?
Everyone should be at home clapping, because that segue was very good. Well done.
That was the most sarcastic, unimpressed clap.
Limp clap.
Yeah.
So Deja Vu, such a great little game. It's a Japanese game, so I don't think it's available in Australia, or you can probably order it from Amazon Japan. I should have a look, actually. It is a memory game which whenever I say that I've got a memory game that I'm teaching someone, everyone goes, ugh, no,
Yeah, I just
please
did that.
no. I saw Adrian's physical response when I said it was a memory game. But it's really fun because everyone makes mistakes in it. And so you can like rejoice in your friends' mess ups. And then when you mess up, you're giving your friends joy at the same time. So it's a game where production wise, it's really nice. There's like these really thick cardboard items. So it's like a comb or high heels or a basketball or a high-vis vest, for example. And what the game is that when you're flipping a deck of cards over, and on each deck it's got a picture of the items on the card, and it could be one item on the card, so one pair of high heels, or it could be three items, kind of similar to Spot It, where you've got different things on the Spot It card. So it might be three different items: a high heels, a high-vis vest, for example. What happens in the game is you want to flip out cards one by one from the deck. As soon as a card is flipped over where an item has come up again, so let's say, previously a high-vis vest has come out and then another card gets flipped over and it's got the high-vis vest on it, then it's a race to grab the high-vis vest off the table. So everyone's this is one of those games similar to Taco Cat, Goat Cheese Pizza, where you're risking bodily harm by playing it, but everyone's like shooting their hand in the middle to find it and then grab the high-vis vest, for example. And that's the game. And then you do that until all the cards are done, or the round. And I think you take out of the deck, you take 4 or 5 cards out at the start, so you don't know which items are not going to be there. And so what happens is at the end of the game, if another card hasn't come out, or the item hasn't come out again, then you lose points based on having taken that item. Or if a card comes out that reveals actually the item hadn't come up yet, then you lose points as well.
So it will say that, no, this item, you
correct.
thought it was.
No, you're right. The person who took that item was wrong.
Yeah,
and so you can call your friends and say, hey, you shouldn't have that item. It's very funny. And that's the whole game. And it's really over really quickly. Very fun. It's definitely got a Spot It feel to it. Yeah, it's got like, I would say like a combination of Taco Cat, Goat Cheese Pizza, and Spot It. And yeah, I think kids would love this game. They would probably smash adults at this game based on my experience with Spot It. Highly recommend.
It reminds me of Ghost Blitz. Have you played Ghost Blitz?
I haven't played Ghost Blitz, but I know of it. Yeah.
So that's the same thing where with these games, so there's a lot more variety than Ghost Blitz, because Ghost Blitz only has 5 or 6 pieces. And that's obviously got the wrinkle of you grab the coloured item and then sometimes whatever. And we played with Tom, and Tom's like, I had to be reserved because I didn't want to cause anyone any bodily harm. It's reaching across and smashing someone. So, yeah, I can see that. But, yeah, the concept of broken fake acrylic nails or scratches or maybe even the jarred finger or two. Me and 80, we played a game at PAX once where a bloke broke his glasses playing Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza.
Oh, my God.
That was awkward.
Yeah.
That was super awkward.
Because he looked at us and we're like, what? Like he did the gorilla thing? So his glasses were down and he did the gorilla thing. And
smashed him.
Yeah.
Exploded him.
He's like, oh, my glasses. And then kind of held them out to me and 80 and we're like, yep, what do you want? So it was pretty funny.
That's great.
That sounds really cool. And yeah.
Grab if you've got an opportunity to play it or grab it, I would grab it. It's really good.
Again, these games are so funny. Like the Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizzas and Ghost Blitz, they're just manic and a little bit of craziness. So yeah, I'm glad I heard about it. 80, just quickly before we go to our sizzles, you played one of my favourite games, and you played the dice placement character in the Blacksmith in Merchant's Cove, which has just had a new expansion. It's just in a box behind me now. So tell us a little bit about your experience playing the Blacksmith in Merchant's Cove.
Well, Haig was lucky enough again to get one of these other massively monstrosity games. I don't know how he does it, but I'm sure his partner Ashley knows nothing about it. Anywho, we got to play it, and it's another one of those ones like, I know, sad that Final Frontier Games has obviously gone into receivership and all that kind of stuff, but the game is fantastic. It's been out for a long time, but this is sort of the big box with everything in it. I have also, before I talk about this game, and I know there'll be some people out there that will be very sad that they aren't getting their copies. I have been looking into it, and apparently they are trying to sort of sort things out from a few updates to try and get some of these games to people that have paid this money. So anyway, The game's great. Everyone knows the game's been great for a long time. I haven't played the Blacksmith yet. It was my first opportunity to play it, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the game. G-Money had never played the game before. He played the pirate, and Haig played the innkeeper. Yeah, we were just, had a blast. It was super smooth, such a smooth game. It was great. So, yeah, I mean, anyone that knows the game knows that all of the characters are different. You're basically playing your own mini game to create items to sell at sort of a market by the end of the round. There's a little bit of not sort of cutthroat nature, but you can manipulate what ships are coming into what docks to sort of help you sell goods for yourself and try and screw other players out of it. And there was a little bit of that towards the end because we were able to do that. And it was just, it's a great game. Like, I absolutely love it. I'm sad that I don't have a copy myself in a way, because I think that Finn would actually really like it. He's now at that age where you could play the Blacksmith and he would have an absolute blast. And I've said it to Haig. I was like, we should play it with him at some point. I'd like to try some of the other ones because there's a heap to try. I think I'd like to do the Mushroom Farmer. Just because it's funny. Just a funny concept. I have seen you play the time machine people.
The Chronomancer.
Chronomancer. I've seen you play that on a playtest a long, long time ago. That looked kind of crazy and fun. It's a great game. Like, I think it's absolutely great. And I love that there's just a lot to do in it. Lots and lots to do in it. The end game scoring where you're kind of manipulating what characters go to the town and stuff like that is really clever, and taking the negative effects, but sometimes it actually works out that it's in a plus because of the different people that are in the town. It's very clever. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very fun, and the reason why, like, I rate it so highly because, oh man, I would love to play it more, and I should play it more, especially with all the expansion content. So there's a new expansion that's arrived with a big box that comes with it as well. So all the content, I know we talked about having a big box and the box coffin and things like that, but hopefully it'll get played. Joe, have you played this before?
Yeah, I love it. I've got the big box. I've got the expansions. I haven't had a go yet. Yeah, it's, you and me, Conor, we love asymmetry, so it's just so good.
This is a weird one, but I feel that this isn't such a box coffin because essentially the base game doesn't really change much, right? It's just new characters. So I feel like it's the games that add like a heap of modules and a heap of this, then another map, and then this goes onto the side and you bolt this on and blah, blah, blah. I find they are more of a box coffin in general. I find that this game is very much like you pull out the characters, pick your character, put the remaining characters in the lid for now, upside down, and then you just pull out the map, pull out the bits, and play the game. It was it's a great game. So
you make a good point in that you're not expected to play with all the content every time, mate. Like, you can't, because you're not going to play with 12 people. That would be amazing, but it's not going to happen. So that was Merchant's Cove and just the Blacksmith. But now we'll move on to our sizzles.
Hi there, it's Dana Banana from the Board Game Barbecue, and if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I love a new board game smell. So when I'm in need of a new aroma, the best place to go is to head to Advent Games. They have a huge range of games from pre-orders to in-stock games. Actually, I don't think there's a store that can match their variety. Dean, the owner, is fantastic, and if I'm after a particular game, he's always so responsive. So if you're after a new board game smell, make sure you go to adventgames.com.au.
And Adi, I might let you lead off because I have played this game, as I've said in the podcast, but you have gone into a much more deeper dive than me. In fact, you started to play the solo campaign mode, and that is the Anarchy, made by Bobby Hill and produced by Garfield Games.
Yeah, so I'll sort of start this with, I'm not going to explain every element to this game because it's got a lot. It is packing a serious punch in, and yet again, another tiny box. I would say this is more complicated than Hadrian's Wall. I would say much like if you played Too Many Bones, learning the Elder Scrolls is a lot of an easier experience. I think that if you've played Hadrian's Wall, playing this game is a much easier experience if you're learning it, and vice versa. If you've only played the Anarchy and then you go back to play Hadrian's Wall, you would pick it up a lot easier than someone that's coming fresh and never had played any of these games. Well, where do I start? Essentially, it's set in 1135. Henry I has died unexpectedly, and it kind of sets the tone for the campaign, which this is the sort of start of the actual rule book, but when you get into the campaign, there's a lot more detail into that, which I thought was phenomenal, and I'll get there in a second. And essentially, you get given your 2 sheets, just like before, your 2 square sheets with loads of things to tick off and scratch off. And essentially, it's a flip and write game where you gather resources, I say workers because there's a vast array of workers. You've got patrons, soldiers, knights, craftsmen, and serfs, and they all do different things, and they allow you to do different things on the sheets. So if it's building the wall, you would be using the craftsmen, and they help build the walls, build the towers, build all the different things to essentially defend the castle. Because in this game, in the original sort of Hadrian's Wall, you were defending a kind of a front, middle, and a left kind of situation. It's like left, right, middle, done. Whereas in this, you actually get a castle board. And the castle board is a little square that's actually dual layered, which is amazing. It makes a huge difference. So massive respect to Garfield Games for making sure that happened, because I think it really adds to the replayability and the playability of the game. It makes it so much, you're not knocking bits around. They all lock in really tightly. And essentially, on the castle board, you have 4 turrets that go on the corners of your castle. In between each turret is a wall. And at the front, you have a gate. And on the top right-hand side, you have essentially like a moat. And they are represented by dice and some sort of some sort of rectangular blocks and some round blocks for the towers. And they have different pips on them. And as you build and upgrade the castle, you flip them over and turn them round so they have a higher defense rating. So you need to do this at the end of the round, because essentially you get a barrage of attacks that you need to defend, and then that helps you gain more victory points the better you can defend these things. Not only do you need to defend these things, you also need to feed the people that are inside the castle defending said castle. So you need to cover their cost with food and stuff like that by the end of the round. Whew, okay, not only that, during the middle of the round phase, you have the opportunity to attack other castles, not other players' castles. You can't attack each other, but you can essentially, there's a central board that has the ability to attack other castles. And those castles get harder and harder as each round goes on. And essentially, once you've attacked them and you've sort of taken them over, you move your tent forward and you get a massive benefit. But they are so costly to get those. And if you fall behind in one round, it costs even more to get back again to where you are. I have, in some turns, not attacked the castle because it's so expensive, and the particular bonus is not as big as potentially the next one. And I have tried to skip a couple here and there to see if it makes much difference. And it definitely does. I'd say sack those castles. Don't fall behind. The thing is, if you want to sack castles, you need technologies and different things to attack the castle. So you need ladders, you need cranes, you need catapults, battering rams, siege towers, and you need to build these. And they cost a lot of resources as well. Everything costs a lot. I feel that this one, for me, has a much bigger engine builder feel to it. I feel getting stronger in this game. I feel that the population is getting bigger and I'm able to do more as my castle grows. And it's a remarkable game. Like, there's nothing else like this. Hadrian's Wall is the only thing that's like this. And no one else is doing this apart from Bobby Hill. So massive respect. And for it to be that linked to a part of history, which I actually really like to learn about historical stuff. And I read the first chapter for the campaign, and I had to Google three different phrases that I didn't know what they meant. Because do you know what a lamprey is?
Yeah, it's a fish that gets stuck to your...
Well, I didn't.
Oh,
And apparently King Henry basically ate those and ate those and ate those, and he was told not to, and he kept going. And I think that might be leading to why he passed away. But they look like the sandworm from Dune on the face.
yeah.
they've got
They're
like a round mouth.
disgusting.
Yeah, like
Full
they look-
nightmare. Full nightmare.
You see them on the tank, and it is gross. And then also, I got to learn about the White Ship disaster, which was really also quite interesting. I never knew about that before. And in the UK, we learn a lot about this point in history in high school, but it was just something that I didn't know about. And I got to read like a little Wikipedia blurb about it and go sick, and then move on. Yeah, I think the campaign is remarkably difficult. And I say that because you remove cards that help you get certain scoring elements of the game, but then you have to try and achieve a certain level of scoring element in those particular regions. I feel like it's sort of pulling you in one direction where you're trying to keep getting points, but it's pulling you in different directions that's kind of counterintuitive to what you would like to usually do. I played the first chapter now 5 times, failed every time, and I want to keep going because it does say in the book, feel free to move on and, try another one and all that kind of stuff. But I was so close one time that it's just so upsetting. I was basically 1 point off of getting it achieved. It was 1 point in the influence track. And however, I had to do other things to get the other points to get 2 of my other tracks up. So I just couldn't squeeze enough juice out to get it done. And for me, I don't play solo games. Like, I just don't. I say this a lot. Occasionally I will. And sometimes even for the show, I'll give it a go so I can give a bit of an opinion on someone that has very little knowledge of soloing games. But I want them to be easy. I want them to be fluid. And this game has that in droves. It's exactly the same as the original game, but you're trying to get all these different achievements, and they're very hard. There's a lot here. Conor, you've played this game, right?
Yes, I have. So we played it 4-player, which I'd be interested to know how long a scenario takes you, because we did it. We all learned. So it was 3 players learning. Mitch taught myself, Tom, and Harry. And it didn't really feel like it took a long period of time. People were coming over and sort of giving us a bit of a hard time when we were at your place and going, "Oh, you're still playing that?" Things like that. It's like, yeah. But we were learning, and we had all played Hadrian's Wall before, so we had that baseline. Yep, okay, I understand the process of the engine and the vibe of you pretty much running an exchange program, right? It's exchanging meeples for resources, and similar to what we're talking about with White Castle, the efficiency, trying to get the efficiency down pat. What you were talking about not sacking the castle, I had castle FOMO because people were going and attacking the castle and getting the benefits. And I was like, oh, no, I need to do this too. I can't be caught behind because, as you said, if you don't do it in a particular year, you'll then have to make it up the following year in order to reach the castle reach to sack the castle. But having to upgrade your technology because they get better and better, oh boy, that is a massive investment, along with the investment of committing the food and the troops and whatnot. I loved the tech tree aspect too of on the left-hand bit of paper where you're going through and committing civilians or engineers or something, and you get to increase your powers through that. That was so much fun. I did mention that I wanted to play this a bit more before I sizzled it. I'm glad you jumped in and sizzled it because I think it deserves to be, and people need to know how awesome this game is. I think similar to Hadrian's, if Garfield and Bobby can get this onto BGA, it will get absolutely smashed. It's just so good. What one thing I believe, and you might have to go back and listen to our episode with Bobby, but he was saying that you need to expect that you are going to have some sort of invasion occur to you. It's going to happen if you want to be able to maximize your scoring. Otherwise, you're just going to be committing resources that don't actually get you a score. So whereas I think more with Hadrian's, what I was able to do is if I was able to defend against the Picts, my score would be a lot better. So it wasn't a sunk resources in a way. But yeah, trying to find that balance, oh lordy, it is tough. It is a medium weight euro, if not heavier, on 2 bits of paper. That's what it is. It is no longer just a flip and write. It is like a proper, brain burner of a game that you're not going to sit there and have a cup of coffee and play the Anarchy. You're going to have to commit like a serious amount of mental energy into trying to beat your score for this.
Essentially as well, like each round you pick a new card out of 2 cards, as long as you're doing well enough, because if you fall behind on the castle thing, you only draw 1 card and you're stuck with it. You don't get to take up 2 cards. So in the solo game, I was very mindful of having those options, because not only do those cards give you your resources for that round, they also give you an endgame scoring condition. Now, for my chat with Bobby, I think it might have been about the Anarchy, or I think it was Hadrian's Wall. He did say, like, because I'm so bad at that game. I'm much better at this game, if I'm honest. But he'd said that, like, those scoring cards, they are a lot of points. If you can hit, like, 4 of those well, like, you can get a good amount of points. And the one when I was just 1 point behind from doing this first chapter, I hit real high on those. I got 11 points out of my cards, which is a lot in this game. So yeah, it's absolute masterpiece. Like I said before, there's nothing like it. And how essentially the governance, the warcraft, the worship, and the entertainment works on the second piece of paper is very clever. You can actually train patrons to become knights, then the knights can defend the castle. You've got like a St. Valentine's Day festival where essentially people can sort of procreate, and you've got to get these different numbers to sort of, and these different symbols to make that match. You actually end up building different parts of the internals of the castle, from saying like having a small mint, which gives you a lot of money resources, which is fantastic. And that's actually one of the goals for the first chapter, is you need to have a large mint. You need to have built the biggest, and you get a lot of money income. And money income in this game I found is really nice because it's quite flexible. You can do a lot with it. You've got to have stables to attack the castles. You've got to have tactics. So you can actually use tactics to defend the castle. So essentially you can pick a tactic, and let's just say you choose the tactic as rocks. Well, you can throw rocks over the wall to defend yourself rather than having to rely on troops, because troops are quite hard to come by, especially if you send all of your troops to attack a castle and now you've got hardly any troops. It's just brilliant. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said at the start, for someone that doesn't play a lot of solo, I will continue playing this solo. Absolutely no problem, and get a massive kick out of playing it. The Anarchy, fantastic.
So good. Joe, any interest? Keen? What's the vibe?
Yeah, definitely interested. I really want to give this a go. I haven't bought it yet, just because I sold my copy of Hadrian's Wall just because it felt so much like a multiplayer solo game, which I'm sure the Anarchy is very similar, but it also didn't feel like it had enough crunch Hadrian's to warrant me playing it solo. So I feel like the Anarchy probably strikes that balance a bit more in terms of being a lot crunchier and will be more satisfying to play solo. But I'd like to definitely want to give it a go for sure.
I think it does, and as Adrian says, there's a campaign that's in it straight away. They bought that out. Garfield and Bobby bought that out relatively soon after Hadrian's had launched, but it was like a free expansion that you could pretty much just download. I believe it does because of the different things that you have to juggle, as Adrian said, and trying to maximize your points and making sacrifices. And even though you have gone through and played a particular way, it doesn't mean it's the most efficient way. I think there's a lot. For me, it feels like there's a lot more. And I'm not someone who definitely squeezed every bit of juice out of Hadrian's either. So, yeah, so good. I mean,
cool.
Aside from Bobby being a good friend of the podcast, it's just an incredible game.
There's also one little other wrinkle in this thing is the tracks. Once you fill up one of the tracks, if you get more on that track, you don't get any points for it. You've kind of like maximized it.
Yeah, it's true.
that was really upsetting because I actually got an extra point in bravery. If I could have only got it in influence, I would have done that first chapter. But yeah, it's very good. Like I can't recommend it enough for people that love solo gaming or want to try something that's, on sheets of paper that's a bit more of I'd say a hardcore flip and write, like something a bit heavier. The rulebook is phenomenal. I will have to say the rulebook is very well broken down. It's very clear and concise, and you can go straight back to a page and go, oh, okay, cool. The silver track, what does that mean? And you can just look at it. It tells you exactly what it does and what the benefits are, or what's the medium chapel? How do I get that? And it just tells you exactly what you need and exactly what it does. So it's actually quite simple once you get started.
Yep. And it does. It gives you a bit of a flow and things like that. But so good. It's just so good. I need to play it again. Joe, you have you, not me, you. You've gone to nearly the other end of the spectrum. You talked just before about multiplayer solitaire. This is a multiplayer game where the more people you have, the better it is. We played this. Me and Adrian played this way back when in the early days of the podcast. We were lucky enough, and that is Blood on the Clocktower.
Yeah, so I think probably one of the games of the weekend from my weekend away, we played it every night, and we had a good like 9 people there that weekend, so I had a good number of people to play it with as well. If you're listening and you've never heard of Blood on the Clocktower, it's a social deduction game similar to Werewolf. There are bad guys, there are good guys, and for the bad guys to win, they want to kill off as many of the townsfolk as possible. And for the good guys to win, they want to try and identify who the bad guys are, essentially. And when you boil it down, the thing that I think really sets us apart, and I think is I think it's almost certainly is best in its class as a social deduction game, is that in some of the other social deduction games, there are villagers which have no powers. And when you're a villager, sometimes in those games, you just feel like you're not doing much and you're not getting much information. You're just kind of going off vibes. I think the thing that makes this really strategic as a social deduction game is that everyone has a role, even all of the good guys, and the roles come with powers that give you information in the game in terms of whether someone's good or bad, or that sort of thing. So yeah, I think the whole group loved it. I think one of the, I guess, potential drawbacks of these sorts of really grand social deduction games is that often you need one person who's like the game master, or in this game it's called the storyteller. And so sometimes it can feel a bit like, well, I'm the person who's not getting to have fun. I think we would have played easily like 7 games of this over the weekend, and I was the storyteller every time. And that's because I was having so much fun as the storyteller, even though you're kind of leading things and orchestrating things. What was really fun was that, you're getting to watch your friends. And this is, I guess, one of the benefits of this weekend is we all knew each other really well. You get to watch your friends lie to each other in real time, which was just like, it was just delicious to watch your friends manipulate each other in this kind of very contained way. And yeah, just some really funny stories came out of that weekend, and some kind of not hurt feelings, but like, oh my God, I can't believe you lied to my face. It was good. We were joking about it the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, like a grudge, but not a serious grudge. It's like,
not a serious grudge.
I'll remember that for the next time we play.
Yeah, I'm going to remember that this next game. Yeah, that we play.
It has that in spades, that game.
Yeah.
Like, you can play it on Discord. There's a few Discord servers that still play it now, and yeah, it's fantastic.
The thing I think would be interesting is if you're playing with people who don't know as well. I do wonder if that might be a bit of a drawback. I'll talk about it in more detail, I guess. The sorts of powers that you're getting, I guess the way I would kind of boil it down is that the powers generally are, you get information at the start of the game, you get information during the game, or you get information as it's like a once-off power. You get to call when during the game you use the power and then go from there. That's as the good guys. And as the bad guys, you've got these kind of tricky things you can do to kind of manipulate the game state so that you kind of essentially cause confusion for the most part. The thing I would describe is in the base game, like in the very, very simple rule set, you've got things like, there's day and night phases. At the end of the night time, the bad guys will kill one of the good guys. And during the daytime, everyone around the table gets to choose one person to execute, and it's not mandatory. So ideally, what you're trying to do, if you're a good guy, is to execute the demon or the bad guy. And so the powers are kind of like the seer from Werewolf, where you wake up at nighttime and you get to see a couple of people that might be bad or good, or you'll get information about who the minion potentially is. So the minion's kind of like the bad guy's second in charge, essentially, or the demon's second in charge. And often what gets revealed to you by the storyteller is that you get shown two people, one of them is the minion and one of them is not. And so you have to try and figure out based on their behavior as to how that goes. And you keep playing until you get to one of the win conditions. And one of the things I would say about the game is I know that there's been a huge community that's grown out of the game. I know that there are like Blood on the Clocktower only nights that happen around the country. So there's a group of people who really love this game and really, really enjoy it. We got to play with a different, one of the other benefits of this game is you sub in and out different roles. And so we got to play different roles from the original variant, and then we got to introduce a whole new kind of. They've got 3 groups of roles, I guess, that work well together. So they recommend that you use them as a group if you're going to sub roles in and out. So we tried one of these whole other variants that was called Sects and Violence, but sects as in SECTS, and violets, I think, like VIO.
Right, yeah.
So it's pretty funny. Yeah, so we introduced this whole new thing, and it completely changed the shape of the game, the way that people talk to each other. People were like way more paranoid the whole time. It was really fun. Yeah, if you enjoy social deduction games, I think you should definitely play this game for sure. If you don't enjoy it, and it's mostly because you feel like you're not getting much done as a good guy, or you feel like the ups and downs aren't consistent, then I think it's still worthwhile trying it. If you've got a more strategic mind, I think this is definitely going to be up your alley. The one thing I would say is that if you are someone who finds it difficult to kind of just talk a lot, or to lie on your feet, or even just to interrogate someone about what they know, that's the type of person that I think might not enjoy this game all that much. Yeah,
it's interesting though. There's obviously people who are naturally predisposed to that type of stuff, might be natural performers or be able to think on their feet, but it's also a skill too, and it's a skill that you can work on, and a lot of it comes from, if you're not someone that is naturally outgoing or whatever, you may still get to enjoy the games. Some of the best players of these games are the ones that actually sit back and observe and then go and make a comment, because actually they're the ones that you go, well, that person hasn't said anything the whole time. Maybe we should listen to them, as opposed to someone like yours truly, who's a jabberjaws, who just yammers on. Especially like if I'm a bad guy. I'm giving away my secret here. If I'm a bad guy, I'm talking. Like, I can't help it. I'm just like, it's like a deflection or whatever. So I hadn't played many social deduction games when I'd played Blood on the Clocktower, but just playing that and having the powers, and I think one of the times I was the minion, and I just so happened to fall upon the other minion straight away. We ended up going off into a room and talking together, and it was just the best. And then the demon, it might have been with Adrian, actually.
It was me.
Yeah.
It was. Because what happened was we went into the room, and then I felt sad, but Sarah accidentally clicked on our room. And then me and Conor then used that as a tool to tell the group, like, she was trying to sneak in and listen to our stuff. She's a bad guy. We told everyone we were going for a private chat in this room. And then she just crumbled a bit under the constant accusations, and then they killed her. And I was like, yes, it was so good. Yeah,
that's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah,
it's just
it is.
There's a reason. There's a reason why they have their own conventions around the world just for this game. And in fact, there's a convention the week before PlayCon just for this game. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's
huge
just following.
It is. I think it is very special in the kind of social deduction kind of landscape for sure. I can see why it's so beloved, and I'll absolutely play it again, and I'll absolutely run it again. Like, it was just so. I was surprised how fun it is to be the storyteller, and how, like, you also get, if you enjoy being a dungeon master, if you play D&D, probably too, because you there are some rules decisions that you as the storyteller get to make the decision on. So, it'll be like, this is how it shakes out. If there's an option between two people, you choose as a storyteller. And so you almost get to self-balance a bit. Like, the first few games, it was really hard for the demons. So then in the later games, what I did for the bad guys is the decisions I would make would be to help them a bit more, to help balance things out. So And it's just fun to see. Man, I would play this again in a heartbeat.
I have a question, though. Does anyone get muted in the first round and then killed in the second round and have to sit there for 2 hours?
No. And that's the other thing that's really good about this game is that if you get eliminated and if you get executed or killed, you're still part of the game.
100%.
You're not told you have to be silent. You are still part of everything. You still get votes in.
People.
Yeah, you're a ghost. Yeah. You still get
Yeah,
votes in. You get one final vote after you've died to cast towards execution. So you still are very much involved when you die. And so I think it's still extremely fun.
And in a way, just having that one vote, it makes it more engaging too, because you're not just voting willy-nilly. Because if you're a villager or whoever you are, and it's like I'll just vote every time. Whereas with this ghost one, you're like, oh no, okay, can I swing it? Is it a chance for me to swing it? I always think that like these social deduction games are just Survivor. Like it's the same vibe of lying, making deals, all that type of stuff. It's just Survivor in the space of an hour and a half, 2 hours. So if
the vibe it really gave me is, have you ever watched the TV show The Traders?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, man, I love that show. That would be my dream. If I could go on that TV show, I would absolutely kill and I would love it so much. Playing this, it gave me that vibe of like, people go off and have their discussions separately and then we all come together at the table and that's when like the game is really afoot and it was just it gave me that vibe 100%.
Yep. No, it's so good. So if you do have a chance, it plays from smaller numbers to massive numbers too. So it does a lot. All right. I'll quickly talk about my sizzle because it is a small box. It's very popular, and the reason I'm talking about it is, unfortunately, the company that has made it has gone under, and that is Compile. A little while ago, several of our community were obsessed with a game called Marvel Snap, and Compile was compared to Marvel Snap, and I can kind of see why, but there is some differences. So in Compile, what you're doing is you're taking the role of AI, who are trying to compile, so have a value of value of cards in a line, effectively. And what you're doing is you're trying to compile each of these different elements, and each of the elements has a particular theme about it. So there's like light, plague, metal, water, spirit, all this type of stuff. And each of them will have certain abilities. And what you're trying to do is combo those abilities so that you can compile 3 lines before your opponent. Now, where the game shines is you have a very small amount of cards, and it can be really, really brutal. The turns can be super, super brutal. So, for example, what you might do is be able to shift a particular card into another line, because normally what you're supposed to be doing is playing that card into that line. So you play a light card in the light line, but you may be able to move it. You might be able to flip an opponent's card so they can't have the powers. And similar to other games, you have an instant power, an end of turn power, or a constant power. And depending on where that card is played in your line, you might be able to show them or show the power in that line. So, for example, I'll give you an example here. So I've got the Plague one here. So with Plague, its abilities are force, discard, and flip. So that means that you force your opponent to discard, or you might be forced to discard, and then you're also then forced your opponent to flip, which each of the cards has a value of 2 at the end. So, for example, the play card with the value of 1 goes up the top, and it says after your opponent discards a card, you can then draw a card. So that's a constant ability. So what that means is when another card is played on top of it, you then have that constant ability, and it doesn't go away unless someone is able to flip it. In the middle section, that's the instant ability. So you only trigger that once unless you then move that card where you can trigger it again. It is so clever. And the way that it's really thematic and trying to work together. I've played this game a whole bunch. There's now a second volume that's out as well. It is really crunchy. It's really quick. It comes in the tiny box. It's a weird packaging, actually. It kind of reminds me of the old action figure blister packs that they came in, where it's like the bulge of the plastic and things like that. That's what it reminds me of. I haven't played Volume 2. I'm keen to get my hands on it, especially with the news that Cradle & Games has gone under. but I've played through all of the different, I guess, elements, if you want to call them that, and they have some similarities, which is great, but they're also really different too. So the way they synergize, and you do a snake draft for when you pick them, so you put them out, and so player one, or it depends on how you want to do it, but you can have player two pick the first one, then player two picks the next two, and then so on and so forth, so that effectively, there is an advantage of going, so play then two, and then player one goes and picks two, and they're done, and then player one goes and picks their last one. It's really, really clever. Joe, I know you've got a copy of it. Have you been able to play it yet?
No, I haven't played it yet. So I think we spoke about this just before we started recording, but when the company announced that they were going under, I was like, oh God, I better buy this because it's a game that I think I would really enjoy, but I just haven't got around to playing it yet. So I've got it. I just need to play it. And it sounds amazing, and it looks really good on the table. Yeah. So really keen to play it.
The cards have this awesome, shiny aspects, like the lining and things like that. So it really does stand out.
It was massive at PAX when we were there. I think it was a game where no one really knew much about it. This is from my personal experience. I didn't know much about it, and I asked people about it, and no one else really knew much about it. But all of a sudden, it just started to fly off the shelf, and all of us, I just began played everywhere, and everyone was saying how good it was. So, yeah.
I would not be surprised, knowing that it's got Greater Than Games and the struggles that they've had, if someone else doesn't go and pick it up, because it is small. It's cards. That's all you need.
Yeah.
It's very 100%. Small packaging. There's no other components. There's no counters or anything like that. It's purely cards. There's actually two versions of it you can play so the comparison that comes to Marvel Snap is when you play it with this version, where when you control two of the lines as opposed to your opponent. So, for example, you're only playing to your line, but you've obviously got one that's opposite to you. So if you control two of those entire lines, you can then actually shift one of your opponent's components, and that way that it stops them from playing a particular card into that zone, and that might actually ruin their plans. And then what you're looking to do then is then take that component off. Your opponent doesn't want you mucking around with it, so they will then try and take it off you. So that method is actually, I think, a lot more engaging and plays into the mechanics of you're not just racing to try and get to 10, you're actually then having there's a competition for the values of winning a particular line first, and then really mucking around with your opponent. So depending on who you're playing with, depending on how versed they are in card games, it's a competitive card game. And if you like head-to-head competitive card games, this is definitely for you. So that is Compile by Greater Than Games, the Anarchy by Garfield Games, and Blood on the Clocktower by Pandemonium Institute. So 3 awesome games from different time periods,
and all super different
time periods.
All different time periods.
What am I talking about? From Blood on the Clocktower is a little bit older. Anarchy's brand new, Compile's manure. So yeah, good. So now we'll move on to news and announcements. All right, so a couple of announcements. The first is the Brisbane Game Day at the Park Royal.
Royal on the Park.
Royal on the Park. Park Royal. Isn't that a Monopoly location? Park Royal?
Probably.
A chain of hotels?
Probably would be correct, yeah, which is why I'm confused, because it is really a hotel. Anyway, so that's at the Royal on Park on the 17th of May in Brisbane. Make sure you grab your tickets. It's the last game day that we're going to have before the next announcement, which is PlayCon from the 11th to the 13th of July. Tickets are still on sale. 3-day passes are exhausted, so they're all done. 80, where we at for our other days, rough estimate?
I actually don't know. They could be sold out as well. I'm that informed. I should have checked before we recorded, but I reckon less than a dozen each. Honestly, yep. There's barely anything.
So make sure, if you haven't and you want to come on any of those single days, go and grab your tickets. We have a heap of announcements. I can't even go through them all. We run out of time. So please make sure that you're following us on Facebook for PlayCon, and you get all the announcements through here. And the last one is we have been nominated again for a Golden Geek Award for Best Podcast. So please, if you can vote for us, please do. If you're looking for Geek Gold and are on Discord, our lovely Discord members are giving some away. So if you'd like to vote and don't have Geek Gold, please jump in Discord and rattle the tins, and that would be really good. So we're super stoked to be nominated again. It's a great honor.
I think we can just announce it right now. PlayCon sold out.
PlayCon is
wow.
sold out, boys. Thank you.
Yes,
thanks for the support,
out.
Everybody. We really appreciate it. Like, without your help, we couldn't run this thing. So
yeah, that's awesome. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. I've had so many people just message me, so they're excited to meet up at PlayCon, and it's been a while since we've caught up with people. So yeah, it's going to be awesome, so awesome, and yeah, going to be a fun time. So yeah, but like I said before, please, if you need gold if you need Geek Gold, please come on Discord and just say people are giving it away. Can't give away fun. All right, so now let's move on to this week's question of the podcast recap. It is, what is your favorite board game trilogy and why? This could have been a trilogy of similar types of games. It could have been a trilogy of, episode 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. So we had some great contributions. Joe, if I could get you to go through the first 3, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so from Facebook, we had Shane Murray, who mentioned Cuzco, Mexica, and Tickle. I haven't played any of those games. Have you guys played those before?
Have I played Cuzco?
No. Don't even know what kind of game they are. We had Shri Nazreen, one of our lovely community members who comes along to the Melbourne Game Days, who said that Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and Ankh, which we mentioned on the podcast last fortnight. And then Robert Jackson mentioned Clank and Space, and then Clank Acquisitions Incorporated. They mentioned an amazing journey into deeper and deeper deck building, always fun, zany, and push your luck-tastic.
Yes, and of course there is the second Acquisitions Incorporated that's out now. Would that make it a quadrilogy? I reckon.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's like a secondary trilogy, because there's also like Clank Catacombs and stuff like that too. So
Tetralogy.
Tetralogy.
What's that? Is that 5 sides? A tetralogy?
No, Tetra is 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Tetra. There you go.
5 would be a pentology.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was only Alien. Alien did quadrilogy, right? That's the only time that's ever been used.
Sure.
They just made that up. That's depressing. I didn't know that.
All right. If you say so. I don't know where this is going. Adi, can you read out our last couple, please?
So Dryfly Steven said, I'm looking forward to seeing how 20 strong trilogies work out. It was the first complete trilogy I'll play through. Still waiting for the campaign to fulfill, but all 6 look like ticking my boxes. Quality components, solid gameplay, replayability.
Yeah. These are cool,
then,
these 20 strong games. They're really neat little
Yeah. And Ray said, I'm struggling to go past the podcast mentioned Blood Rage, Ankh, and the Rising Sun trilogy. It's a gift that keeps on giving. Similarly, I need to play Rising Sun again. I love the other 2, but they seem to hit the table more.
Yeah.
I mean, they're big games, man. They're well loved by everybody. Like, they're huge. And they're very much cemented as a trilogy. Like, everyone knows they are a trilogy. For me, like, there was some discussion around the Uwe trilogies and stuff, which I found quite interesting. I didn't understand it because I don't play any of those games, but I think you can't go past the Garfield games for trilogies. Like, they are famous for it. Like, that's their thing. They do a trilogy, and they start, middle, and an end. So that would be West Kingdom trilogy for me. That's where I would go for my favorite.
Mine, I'd probably say the same thing in terms of a trilogy. I don't know if there's the Uwe games, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a bit of on the fence, willy-nilly type fellow when it comes to this type of stuff. Joe, what was yours from last week? I'm sorry, I apologise.
Oh God, now you're testing me.
Or just go with a new one.
I think it was Blood Rising Ankh and Blood Rage. Rising Sun and Ankh, I believe, was the trilogy.
Man, Blood Rage. I just still remember the early days of the podcast, and we played those games of Blood Rage with JB, and jeez, it was so fun.
Good.
And JB with his French accent telling me that we were supposed to be dwarven brothers, and why I was turning on him, and I said, "Hey, it's Blood Rage, baby." So very good. This question of the pod here is: there's been a little bit of discourse. We've talked about a couple of companies who, unfortunately, due to economic reasons, are going under, which is a real shame because we want game companies out there making different games, especially the ones that aren't part of the big, Asmodee type thing. So what we want to hear from you is, how do you feel about the current climate of crowdfunding going forward? We talk about, jokingly about us spending this big amount of money on crowdfunding games and the fact that, you're paying for postage and things like that. And we've already been through a stage where postage was a big issue because it increased in price back during the pandemic and things like that. So we want to know from you, how do you feel about this? How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel bad? Are you maybe going to be more selective about what you're backing? I know I've said multiple times that I go through phases where I don't back anything and then I back heaps of stuff because then I have a backlog and then I have nothing and I get a bit of FOMO. There might be a new project that comes out and I want to back it. So yeah, Adrian, what do you think?
I'm the same as you. I might not go for a long time and not back anything. I'll just be like, there's just nothing that's interesting me to sort of part with my money to potentially never see the game itself. Most places have been completely fine, but it does happen from time to time. It's a bit of a risk always backing a game, and that's just the territory, really. But yeah, all of a sudden there'll be a bunch that come all together, and then I'm broke. Like I have to try and justify like $800 for maybe six backings of 6 games that have all come within like a 9-week period, which can be really hard. And some of them that I never, I just pass on them because you just can't afford that. For me, I jokingly always write about Hell the Last Saga because I spent a lot of money on that. Not as much as Jules, because Jules got the wooden Viking chess set and everything. I felt it's an astronomical amount of money to just sort of basically never see the light of day. And then we heard that Simon had picked it up. And that's cool. Like we might get something, or every backer's going to get the base game. But then now Simon are kind of closing their doors and doing some stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. So if Simon, a game that is getting millions of dollars for each backing, are sort of tightening up their ship and reassessing how they're going to do business going forward, it definitely gives me major concerns for the industry in that regard. Like, I think that it's a funny thing. You might be safer with just Bill, who just wants to print 200 copies of his game, rather than the sort of medium level sort of backing sort of situation from some of the medium level companies that have got multiple backlogs of games that maybe haven't fulfilled, but they've just got a new game that looks amazing and you want to get that one. You didn't have any interest in the previous games, but this one sings to you. You got to really sort of do your research and see where some of these companies are and see what games they haven't potentially fulfilled already, or if they've missed something, or if they're not communicating. Because I can see some of the chatter in some of the Kickstarter groups I'm in, and people are starting to say like, yep, I haven't heard back from these guys in like 6 or 7 weeks. So that doesn't fill people with confidence going forward. But yeah, I mean, for me, I would be doing my research on these things, go with people potentially that you do trust that have fulfilled multiple games, but also just be very wary, because as the game prices go up, and I think the shipping's calmed down a bit. I think the shipping is kind of balanced out, but the game prices sort of remained high and potentially will go higher. I think that you just got to be really selective of what you want. And at the end of the day, it says it very clearly on Kickstarter, you're paying for this thing and you might not ever get it. And that's just risk you take. I don't think that most places are trying to scam people out of money. I think that legitimately people are trying to get these games printed. Some of these games, I remember Mitch talking a long time ago. He had a game that took like 6 years or something ridiculous to come, and it eventually came. And it was funny because everyone else was getting it and Mitch still didn't get it for like a year after a load of other people have got it. So they do come through eventually, a lot of them. So yeah, I don't really know. Like, I'm not a massive Kickstarter person. I do back what I want. I backed the recent Vital game, Speakeasy, and I will probably back the next one as well, the World's Library or whatever it is. So yeah, but I trust Eagle Griffin Games. They're great quality games. They've printed many of these games before, so they've got a finesse program, and it keeps the cost low because they know how to produce these games and how the distribution networks work and all that kind of stuff. Would I feel happy or confident if a company turned around to me and said, okay, cool, you paid for this game 6 months ago. We need another $25 to get it done. Potentially, I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, God, oh, no. Am I just feeding a beast that will never end? But if it was a game that I'd already sunk $200 in, I would probably pay the extra $25 just to roll the dice and see if it works, right? So that's just my take.
I think, it's one of those things where it feels riskier, right? So I'm certainly not, like, I've looked at a few games that I've been really interested in, and I just haven't backed it because I don't know the company very well. I think the times when I would back, like you said, is a company that I know really well because I watched a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, Leader Games, Eagle Griffin Games, some of these smaller companies or companies that I don't know as well, I probably wouldn't. But even then, with Eagle Griffin and Leader, it may not be a sure thing. We don't know their financial situations. And I think what's really unfortunate is it's kind of this 1-2 hit, right? It was the shipping crisis where the shipping unexpectedly was 10 times, 20 times as much as they had budgeted. And then on top of that, so a lot of companies, and I think this is what happened with Final Frontier Games, is that they were on the back foot because of that. And they were trying to catch up with successive Kickstarter campaigns. And then the tariff situation, which was unexpected, then it was like the second hit. And it's this 1-2 hit where it just knocked them out, and they didn't have the resilience as a business to weather another situation like the shipping situation with the tariffs. So I think that's what happened with Final Frontier, and that's what's going to happen with a lot of the medium-sized companies that don't have the, I guess, financial kind of resilience to kind of weather that storm. My other concern would be if, companies try and make it viable by increasing the costs for everyone, even though the tariffs are for, products that are being shipped into the US, for example. So, what you might see is that companies will share the costs across all of the people who've backed it, regardless of where they are, so that people in the US don't feel like they're having to pay more because that's their biggest market, for example. So, and that would be disappointing as well.
I think it's a bit of a 1, 2, 3 hit. I think it was first we had the shipping, then we've had quite a lot of inflation, and prices have generally gone up for everything, all living costs, which I would, entertainment, cinema tickets, everything has gone up. And now we're hitting the tariff situation with the US. I think that it's potentially could break the industry because it's not a industry that is sort of affluent with big money. We're not talking about, apps on the Apple Store where they're making 30% of every app sold. We're not talking about movies that potentially have a big hit, say like the Joker as an example, cost like 80 million to make, and then it made like 1.2 billion. I know not every movie makes that. I understand that, but that helps feed the other films that may not be as successful. We're not, there's not massive worldwide notoriety for board games. It's still a niche hobby. So yeah, I don't know. It blows my mind that sometimes that these companies can make money. To be honest, when I look at the numbers in my own personal life and look at what the game cost me, and if I get it on sale and it's 50% off, and I just bought an $100 game for $50, sometimes I open that box, I look inside and go, there's so much value in this. How can it be made for $50? Chaos Order would be a prime example. That game has all asymmetrical bits, all beautiful components, boxes for everything, replayability out the wazoo, development out the wazoo, huge game, can play it up to 5, like massive production. And to get that at that price, it blows my mind how the industry actually can sustain itself. So
yeah, so a fair few concerns, you might say, from Joe and Ed, which is really good. So, but again, it's not up to us, it's up to you guys, the community, to answer the question of pod across all of our platforms. Speaking of the community, it would be very remiss of me not to mention our new Patreon members that have joined recently. So we have Matthew White, member of my D&D crew, Stuart McCune. If you've been around Sydney, you would have definitely noticed Stu.
Is that because he's tall? Is that a tall joke? Did you just joke, Stu?
I'm allowed to. I'm also over 6 foot tall, so Stu's got me covered though. We've got Ree, who's jumped on board, and Astrid Miller. So thank you all to our new and our old Patreon members. Seems weird, but our Patreon members who have been with us for
existing
is a great thank you, Adrian. Our existing Patreon members. Speaking of the Patreon, if you wish to support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue, sign up to donate to us and get exclusive Patreon podcast episodes, as well as special Patreon events, both in Discord and in person. We've got a couple of those coming up soon. If you cannot support us, there's plenty of other ways to support us without donating. The easiest way is to tell your friends. You can go to Apple Podcast, leave a star rating and review for us, and use Spotify's star rating as well. It doesn't take very long, but it definitely means the world to us. So please jump on and do that. That'd be fantastic. You can also get involved in the Board Game Barbecue community by joining us across social media on Facebook, joining us on X, Instagram, or YouTube, where we are still uploading the audio from our episodes. And my favorite place to go, I say this every time I'm hosting an episode, my digital home, and that is our Discord community. There's always games going on, always conversations, some of them serious, some of them absolute lunacy. If you want somewhere to hang and put up with some explicit language, you can always jump into one of the game chats when we're playing Overwatch. They're always fun, and sometimes we can even share our screen as well. You can have a laugh. All the links are in the show notes.
Ex-host of the podcast, Dan Harris, was in the other night talking to us while we played, and he was watching, and yeah, it was good.
Do you know, and Dan, I hope you're listening, do you know how much pressure I felt I was under to actually do something when you were watching? I was like, oh my God, like I talk about
someone's
this game
watching my
all
screen.
the time. Because it's like, it's people that are just good at stuff, and you commit lots of hours, and the last thing you want is when you talk about how many hours you've committed to something and you're still absolute bollocks. So I was like, please, let me do one cool thing. I think I managed to. So yeah, that was really cool. All right, we are coming to the end of our episode, another fantastic episode, especially with these two. We're going to tell you guys what's gotten us fired up. Sorry, no weird sound effect from Dana today, and no, I'm not going to try and imitate it. Adrian, what's got you fired up?
For me, I've really enjoyed the solo experience of the Anarchy. I'm going to continue that, try and get to chapter 2. I don't want to skip. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to skip. I'm happy to persevere. I'm not in a rush. Like, I'm happy to just chip away at it and see if I can get it done. And then I'll let people know if that comes to fruition. The game day, looking forward to that. Like me, my selfish part of me is at 7:00 when everything's calmed down. I get to play a game with my game group, which I really enjoy doing. And then once we finish, by the time we finish that, it's like pack up time. So we start to pack things up. So we'll be playing Chaos Order again because we love I'm not a massive area control person, but I love Chaos Order. I love La Familia. There's ones that just sync up with my game style, and it has the mechanics and the mechanisms that I like. So we're going to play that together as a group, which I'm really looking forward to. And then, yeah, I'm going to try and keep playing that Expedition 33 game because the storyline is so good. Like, I don't want to sort of, like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but it's kind of like magic, elements of sort of magic. There's elements of sort of Logan's Run, if you know Logan's Run. Mm-hmm. There's elements of sort of steampunk in a weird way. Like, it's just it built a world within 4 minutes of me playing it.
Yeah,
I played it for 4 minutes and the world was set, and that is a big achievement because of my, like I say, flighty, but my ADHD nature. I get bored so quick. I'm tuning out something next. I'll play a different game, install, uninstall. Like, but this is me hooked. I'm actually eager to play it as soon as we finish this. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I am excited for, no surprises, PlayCon. I know it's a little while away, but oh man, I can't wait. I just had so much fun last year and looking forward to spending time with you guys and my friends that I've met and meeting new people and playing some new games and all the cool stuff that's going to be happening. But from a board game point of view, I am looking forward to cracking open the Mastercraft expansion content for Merchant's Cove, especially after you mentioned it today, 80. Looking through that and seeing which ones are going to be fun. So that's for me. And we'll round it out with Joe. What's got you fired up, Joe?
Well, you took my thing, but that's okay.
Oh.
I'm keen to get the Merchant's Cove expansion to the table.
Is the other one Expedition 33 as well? Are you taking mine?
Also that. You also took that. I'm just going to say, after this, I'm going to have a beer with some friends and looking forward to that.
Yes.
So that'll be nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
It's
lovely.
lovely and sunny here in Melbourne. It's a nice mild 20 degrees, so it'll be a lovely time having a beer out in the sun. Delightful.
Nothing better than a Sunday sesh in my
That's
mind.
it.
So
That's
very
it.
good. Well, thank you both for joining me. It's always good hanging out with you guys, even though I hang out with you most nights. So it's really good. So thank you, 80.
Thanks, bro.
No worries. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, bro.
Enjoy your frothies and Expedition 33. And to you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you so much to our sponsors and our patrons. We cannot do the show without you. Keep playing those games, and we'll talk to you again on the next episode. See ya. Bye.
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 Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Board Game Barbecue, episode 334, brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and of course, our lovely patrons. You've got Conor here in the chair.
It's 3:35.
Well, it says 334 on the f***ing run sheet, bro.
No, but look at the bottom at the tab. It says
I'm not looking at the bottom of the tab.
I'm sorry, I didn't update that bit. I'm really sorry. I was trying really hard to get it all done.
Oh, I was starting good.
Right.